Welcome to SuQuietSleep. I'm so glad you are here tonight. Find a comfortable position and let your body settle into the surface beneath you. Relax your shoulders. Release any tension in your jaw and soften the muscles around your eyes, brows, and face. Take a slow breath in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. With each steady breath, the sounds of your day begins to fade into the background. Now, let yourself drift into tonight's story. Tonight, we step softly into the garden of a retired official household in Chang'an's eastern wards. The autumn afternoon is mild and clear. A retired official sits at the stone table in his pavilion with the Guqin, a long wooden zither with 7 silk strings before him, playing the piece he learned when he was 20 years old. The pavilion is small, 4 stone columns and a tiled roof, open on all sides. Built over the corner where the garden pond meets the garden's back wall. He had it built 15 years ago when he returned from his second posting. The stone table at its center is old, older than the pavilion, old enough that the stone surface has a particular smoothness that is not cutting or polishing, but wear, the way of hands and seasons, and the Guqin wooden belly placed on it many hundreds of times. The garden around the pavilion, the lotus palm, now in its autumn state, the leaf browning at their edges, the seed heads dried above the water surface, the ginkgo tree at the garden's corner, fully yellow. The leaf having turned, but not fallen. A tree is solid yellow above the pond. The retired official is looking at the Guqin. The piece is one of the old ones. Flowing water. Its origin traced by a scholar to a Qing master of the spring and autumn period, to an ancient story of a player whose friend could hear mountains and rivers in the music, and who understood the player's heart through the music sound alone. The piece had outlasted that legend by many centuries. He learned it at 20 in the study of his teacher. In the 2 years he studied seriously before the examinations took his attention away from music. He learned perhaps 12 pieces in those years. He remembers most of them. He plays them differently now than he did when he was 20 years old. The fingers know the notes, but the time has become slower, the pauses longer. Its challenge lay less in the notes than in carrying forward the music's flowing character, allowing each note to unfold with the ease of water moving downstream. He does not always play it the same way. Some afternoons, he lingers over the opening session. On others, he begins with the passage he has always loved most. A piece learned over 40 years ago no longer belongs entirely to the score. Today, he is playing it from the beginning. His hands are 62 years old. He noticed them as he plays, more than he noticed them at 20 or 30 or 40. The skin has changed, drier. The veins more visible at the back of each hand. The knuckles more prominent when he extends his fingers across the strings. But the hands know what they are doing. The right hand, the plucking motions, each a specific angle and distance of finger movement. The left hand pressing the strings along the instruments like a surface, sliding from position to position. The sliding motion producing the characteristic of Guqin sound, notes that connect rather than separate. His hands play flowing water. He watches them as if they are not entirely his. The strings are his own, not the instrument's original strings, which would be 30 years old. But a set he put on 4 years ago. 4 years old silk strings. They have settled. The pitch holds better than it did when they were new. The tone has changed, not brighter, not darker exactly, but more certain, as if the silk, having been under tension for years, knows its purpose and produces its sound without effort. He plucked the first string, the lowest, and holds the note. The note sustained. The autumn air of the garden carries it out from the pavilion over the pond into the still afternoon. He watches the note sustain diminish. Then he continues playing. The air in the garden this afternoon is the particular air of clear autumn, not cold, mild. The warmth of the afternoon sun, having accumulated in the stone of the pavilion and the pond's exposed surfaces, but with an edge that the summer air does not have. The clear edge of autumn, which makes sound carry differently and makes the Guqin notes more discreet in the stillness. He has always played better in autumn. He does not know if this is true or if this is simply that autumn's quality of attention, the quality of noticing things that will soon be gone, and makes the playing fields more real. The autumn air, the notes in it, his hands finding the peace without his mind directing them. The stone table under the Guqin is important to the sound. The Guqin resonance depends partly on what surface it rests on. A soft or absorptive surface dampens the vibration. A hard, dense surface like the stone reflects the instrument sound differently from wood, giving the notes a clarity he preferred. He put the Guqin on the stone table for the first time 30 years ago, playing in a different house, a different garden. He brought the stone table with him through 3 different residences. It is the table on which this instrument has always sounded best. He plays. The stone table under the instrument. The instrument above the stone. The autumn crisp afternoon above both. He enters the second session. In his teacher's transmission, flowing water was divided into 7 sections. The second was different from the first, where the first is deliberate. Each note plays clearly. The melodic line, simple and measured. The second has runs, passages of multiple notes, following each other quickly. The right hand producing a cascade effect. He manages the cascade, not as he did at 20. At 20, the cascade came more easily. The fingers faster. The technique less considered. Now, his fingers negotiate the passage by a kind of patience, no rushing, no slowing, but finding exactly the tempo at which his hands can produce each note clearly. The cascade plays out. He comes through it to a pause that follows. He holds the pause longer than he did at 20. In the quiet that follows, memory seems closer than sound. He hears the piece he learned at 20 and the piece as he plays it now simultaneously, not in a way he could explain. He is not thinking about this, but the hands playing the notes of flowing water carry the memory of the notes as they sounded 42 years ago. And the sound the instrument produced now in the garden pavilion is both the same piece and a different one. His teacher told him, "You will play this piece all your life, and it will never mean the same thing twice." He was too young to understand this at 20. He understands it now. He plays the section he had always loved most, the part he plays for himself rather than for any audience. He looks up from the Guqin for a moment. The ginkgo tree at the garden's corner, yellow. The afternoon sun on it, making the yellow vivid. A few leaves have fallen. There are yellow ginkgo leaves on the pond surface, floating, and on the garden path below the tree. The tree will be bare in 2 weeks. He looks at it. Then he looks back at his hands. He plays the 5th section. The music continues. He enters the 6th section. The afternoon light shifts across the pond. He plays on. The 7th section ends. The final note, a harmonic. The string touched lightly rather than pressed to the surface, producing the overtone rather than the fundamental. A note that is pure and high and fades quickly in the autumn air. He let it fade completely before lifting his hands. Then he lifted his hands. He sits before the silent instrument. The garden is quiet around him. The pond water sound, the ginkgo leaf, if there is any wind. There is no wind. The distant sounds of the household afternoon. He played flowing water through from beginning to end. And so the retired official sits in his garden pavilion as the autumn afternoon begins its slow turn towards evening. The Guqin on the stone table before him. The last note of the piece fully faded into the still air. The ginkgo tree yellow at the garden's corner. The lotus pond in its autumn brown. The stone table warm under the instrument. And the piece, flowing water, he learned at 20 years old, have been played through again this afternoon, as it will be played again in other autumn afternoons for however many remain. The world we visited tonight grows quiet now, and you can simply rest here, comfortable and at ease. Your mind can relax. Your body can soften. If you are already drifting into sleep, allow yourself to sink a little deeper. And if you are still awake, just listen to the quiet. There is nothing more to do, nowhere else to be. I'll be here whenever you need another peaceful moment like this. But for now, sleep well. Good night.